I'd like to call this meeting at Uinta County Planning and Zoning Commission Wednesday, June 24th, 2026, at the Uinta County Complex, Evanston, 7 p.m. to order. Could I get you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Has everybody looked at the agenda? Is there any changes or notice of? Where's Kent hiding?
I'm sorry, sir?
Oh.
What was that? I didn't catch that.
Any changes or anything you know of for the
No,
agenda?
sir. No, sir.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. We approve that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, then, has everybody looked at the minutes of the previous meeting and agreed or disagreed?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes of the last meeting are approved. Okay, now we'll go to the conditional use permit 26-02, Target Logistics Management LLC, Workforce Hub. And you'll be our hearing officer, Kent?
I will, sir. Commissioners, what we have for you today is a request for a conditional use permit on behalf of Target Logistics Management LLC. They are seeking this conditional use permit to allow for the construction and operation of a workforce hub in connection with the data center that you previously addressed in a conditional use permit 1601. This workforce hub would accommodate the housing and housing needs of the workforce, and it would be in an agricultural resource development land use district. More particularly just east of the city of Evanston on the 1,000 acres, if you're familiar with that, I'm sure you are. But it more particularly at section 23 of Township 15 North, Range 120 West. This would provide a location for a workforce hub to provide housing and associated support for the personnel housing needs of the construction workers anticipated in connection with conditional use permit 2601. You do have a copy of a support letter from the property owner, in this case, which is Uinta County. It is anticipated that construction housing needs for the data center project could be in excess of 3,000, 3,500 beds. When the applicants get up here, they can certainly correct anything that I've said that is incorrect, but I'll just give you a brief overview or a brief introduction. Could be in excess of 3,000 beds. It would accommodate the housing needs for the construction crews, which would include dining, recreation, and all other amenities. Included within the scope of the plan are vehicle parking, accommodations for RV parking, stormwater control, security fencing, maintenance, laundry facilities, offices, kitchens, dining facilities, supply logistics, solid waste management, among others. Water and sewer service to the area would be provided by the city of Evanston. There needs to be an MOU of some other instrument outlining that agreement between the applicant and the city. I think that's probably a likelihood that will be able to be accommodated. I do know that the city has expressed the willingness and the ability to provide both those services, with a couple of minor issues relative to the sewer service. There will be some impact, obviously, the influx of people and the construction, and all of that will entail. And when the applicant will visit with you here in a few minutes to convey completely what their plans are, I believe they will offer some mitigating efforts for those issues. This proposal has been advertised as directed by our land use resolution, as well as nearby property owners have received a letter from our office advising them of this meeting. And again, this is just a request in connection with a map amendment and subdivision that you've already addressed and ultimately was approved by the county commission. I will say, answer if you're wondering why we are not considering a subdivision or zone change here, and the reason for that is this would be a temporary use, and at the end of this is proposed that, as anticipated anyway, that it would be reclaimed back to its original condition, with the exception of anything that the county commission might deem was beneficial to the community. I've included in your packets a variety of information from the applicant for your review. And so with that introduction, we can begin our public hearing. And I think, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I think the best thing to do would be allow our applicant to come up, whoever wants to, or however many wants to, and present that issue to you. And then everyone here will also be given a chance to ask questions or make comments, whatever needs to be done. So, who's going first, or?
Kevin, you want to speak first? Thanks, Kevin.
You bet. Get out of the way and.
So thank you, commissioners and our partners at Target Hospitality. Most of you know me. My name is Trenton Thornock. I'm the founder of Prometheus Hyperscale and the founder of the project that requires this workforce hub. Most of you either know me or my family. We've been around the neighborhood for over 150 years. And as a reminder, we're the developer of a proposed 1.25 gigawatt data center campus on some of my family's land about 6 miles east of Evanston. So I wanted to take just a couple of minutes before handing it over to the team at Target to give you some context on how we determined that a workforce hub was going to be essential to this project and why Target Hospitality is the partner that we chose. So as Kent mentioned, a project of this scale requires significant construction workforce. And to be specific, we estimate over 3,000 workers at peak construction. It will take us approximately 18 months to get to that peak. We knew early on that how we house and support the workforce would have a direct impact on this community, and we're committed to ensuring that it's done right. We looked at other data center projects across the country, including the Stargate data center campus being built outside of Abilene, Texas, and that gave us a very clear picture of what happens when a project of this scale moves forward without a real workforce infrastructure plan. So there were 3 big issues that stood out. Number 1, the trades were driving hours each way to the job site. This is a major safety problem, and it compounds over time, resulting in reduced productivity, retention drops, and a suffering project. Number 2, the county and the project were scrambling, and the result was emergency approvals of trailer parks to absorb all the demand. Many of these were in flood zones. And number 3, there's a lack of organized staging of infrastructure for truck components. So for a data center build like the one that we have in mind, whether you're moving massive high-value equipment on tight logistics windows, there's a serious operational problem. So we look at the situation in Abilene as a very serious cautionary example. A workforce hub, specifically a Target Hospitality workforce hub, directly resolves the first 2 issues. Number 1, workers will have housing close to the site. So we have no multi-hour commutes, no fatigue risk, no competition with local residents for housing that doesn't exist. The community won't be left reacting because we've planned ahead and come up with a solution, and we've been working on this for more than a year. The third issue, which is staging and infrastructure needs, will be resolved by something that's already happening. You're familiar that YDOT has a project currently underway on the north side of the Uinta County parcel that Target Hospitality is seeking to approval to utilize. There are also several existing truck spaces at nearby locations, including the Pilot Travel Center, Flying J Travel Stop, Sinclair Truck Stop on exit 6, and the TA Travel Center just east of our construction site. But back to workforce housing, once we knew we had to build this ourselves, we looked hard at who does it well. Not just operationally, but as community partners. And that's when we opened discussions with the planning office of the county. Target Hospitality has extensive real experience running workforce communities at scale and with a community-first mindset. They understand they're both guests in this community and that this facility needs to be a good neighbor. Their experience and mindset matched what we needed and wanted to bring to Uinta County and our project. So with this context, I'm going to hand it over to my friend Troy Shrink, who's CEO of Target Hospitality, and will share more details with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Trenton. Thank you, commissioners, and good evening. Thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you. My name is Troy Shrink with Target Hospitality, Target Hyperscale. I appreciate the chance to walk you through what we are proposing, a place to house the people who will be building the Prometheus project, and then take whatever questions you might have. I'll keep it plain and straightforward. Who we are, what we want to build, how it runs, and why we think it's the right way to take care of this workforce and your community at the same time. Why we are here. As Trenton just framed out for you, we've partnered with Prometheus to house and care for the workforce building the data center east of town. I will share some inside baseball with you. We were highly selective, and we are highly selective on who we partner with across the United States. I think Trenton's example of the project in Texas that failed to participate in a workforce infrastructure project is a great example. I personally admitted to Trenton and his team that they're real thought leaders in the space across the United States. We don't see it very often. We see a very reactionary type infrastructure data center build out where the housing is the least of their concerns. Not the case with the Prometheus group. So tonight we're asking specifically for you as a commission to approve a conditional use permit for that workforce hub. About 150 acres of county-owned land right along Interstate 80. It would house roughly 3,400 workers over the 5 years it takes to build the data center project. This aerial shows you the land that was not picked at random. In fact, it came out of earlier conversations between Prometheus and the county about where a hub like this fits best. Something that parties actually put into writing in the letter of intent last fall. It sits on the east end of town with direct access to Interstate 80, heading toward the job site, about 6 to 8 miles to the east of Evanston. Well, that keeps the workforce clear of Evanston's day-to-day traffic, and that's important. When you look at the project site, being right on the interstate does matter. It keeps the workforce close to the project and out on the highway, not on your city streets. And it puts real distance between the hub and any neighborhood. I appreciated Trenton's comments about Target Hospitality and Target Hyperscale. Let me give you just a few more words on who we are, because I think it matters for a project of this size. Target Hyperscale is part of Target Hospitality, the largest provider of workforce accommodations in North America. We currently operate 29 workforce hubs and more than 18,000 beds daily. We have decades of experience in working with rural communities. In Winnemucca, Nevada, we built and currently operate one of the largest workforce hubs in the United States for a company called Lithium Americas in joint venture with General Motors. And that's about a 2,000 bed workforce hub along Interstate 80 if you're heading east outside of that town. In Texas, we're currently building and operating multiple hubs for skilled trades who will build these data centers across the U.S., much like this one here in this area. And that'll be around 10,000 additional beds across that state that we're currently working on. So companies ask us to help because housing and feeding a workforce, well, it's not a perk. In fact, it's what keeps a project safe. It's what keeps a project secure. It's what keeps a project on schedule. And that's our whole business. So Prometheus and other companies can focus on theirs. We're proud of the work that we've done over the years and being able to scale the business across the United States. It's been a passion of ours for many, many years. I want you to notice, though, where we're helping communities today and customers right now. We're already operating here in Wyoming, in a small workforce hub in Wright, Wyoming, in the oil and gas sector. We've supported energy and natural resources, oil and gas in this area and in the Dakotas for many, many, many years. So Wyoming is not new to us. With that said, we continue to advance projects across your state and across Nevada, Utah, and Texas. The lessons that we have learned over the years from those hubs are built straight into what we're proposing here in Uinta County. We're not learning on the job, right? Those are all lessons learned for decades of experience by our team. I may be the spokesperson tonight, but I've got several thousand employees that we work with that are the lifeblood of the organization. Some of them are here tonight, and they're the real experts that take care of the workers every day, every night, and making sure that they're safe and secure, well-fed, well-rested, and fit for work every day. It's not me. And I'm pleased and humbled to be a part of that group, to call them colleagues. This is a look at the hub itself. It's an aerial top-down view. At full build-out, it will house about 3,400 workers built in phases that track the data center construction schedule. It's all-inclusive, full turnkey, dining, housekeeping, maintenance, transportation, security, and recreation, all on-site under one operation. The part that matters to you and this community and the county, our guests don't lean on local hotels, restaurants, or services to get through their day. They'll definitely shop and spend money in town, and that's a good thing. But they're not going to swamp those businesses. There won't be a run on groceries. There's not going to be a run on bottled water. And there's not going to be a run on prices in real estate for hotels and houses and apartments. I get excited when we start to show people what we do. Yeah, for a lot of folks, it's new, and they've never seen anything like it. To be honest with you, I've been with a company going on 15 years, and I didn't know it existed until I joined. But when I look at the amenities, I'm proud of what we provide for the workers because it's important for them, for their morale and their productivity and their safety. When we hear people talk about workforce housing, they tend to picture something rough from decades ago. I've been in your town for more than a year trying to learn about your community and listen to the hesitations of folks. And I hear a lot of reference to the 1980s. This is a workforce infrastructure, and I get it, the reference to the 1980s firsthand. I used to call them Mancamps, and I know it was rough. I wasn't here during that time, but I've seen plenty of Mancamps for sure. So when we look at this, we know this is the opposite, and I think you can tell by the pictures. Skilled tradespeople have choices about where they work. And a clean, comfortable, safe place to live is how Trenton and his team and others will attract and keep them. Private rooms with private bathrooms, comfortable amenities, fresh cooked meals, handcrafted meals by our chefs and our food service personnel. Fitness and recreation, Wi-Fi, laundry, and on-site support. A place that you can actually rest and recover after a long shift and be ready for the next workday. I've said it before, this isn't workforce housing of the 80s, it's workforce infrastructure. Well, providing amenities is one thing, but building it well really means that it can stand on its own when things go sideways. What we've learned through the years is there's no doubt that things will go sideways. There's no question about it. But what do you do when it does? I'll give you an example. This past winter, you'll see that picture in the bottom right. A storm hit Texas. It's nothing like a Wyoming storm. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest in Idaho, and we get big storms. But for Texas, when you get snow, it shuts down the entire state, about a skiff of it. And so it shut down the entire state, and every road around our facility, more than 1,000 workers were told to shelter in place, cut off from the outside. Operations never stopped. They had power, they had heat, they had food, they had water, they had medical support and staff on site the entire time. Because the hub was built for it. It was purpose built for backup power, fuel supply on demand and on hand, heat traced water lines, 5 days up to 7 days of food in reserve. When something goes wrong at the hub, it's built for it and it's part of the solution, not one more problem that you as a county have to manage. Safety, security, and accountability. A workforce this size of more than 3,000 raises fair questions that I would ask if I lived in this community about safety and accountability. And this part of Wyoming knows both the upside and the strain that come with industrial growth. You've seen it for decades. Many of you for yourselves, firsthand, you've worked in industry. So here's how we manage it. Security is on site, on the clock, 24 hours a day, trained, uniformed, licensed, bonded, and insured security, unarmed. Access is controlled. Only guests, staff, and approved visitors get in. Every guest signs a code of conduct. Any violations to the code of conduct can get someone removed, no doubt. Well, this isn't theory, and to share some data with you, it was important to share that we went back and looked at some data since 2022. We've hosted more than 27 million guest nights across that time frame to year to date, across all of our facilities, with about 80 reportable security incidents, over 27 million service nights. That's more than 99% of the nights with no incident at all. Large workforce populations can be managed safely when the systems and accountability are actually there. So, since being asked to support this project, we've spent a significant amount of time getting to understand your community. I mentioned that. And our team has personally built relationships with your local EMS, your sheriff, fire department, your utilities engineering team, the emergency management, because they're going to be a part of our emergency preparedness and response planning. I'll share with you that we've taken the lead across several communities in the West, and in Texas, where we've taken the lead on prepared active shooting preparedness with local law enforcement to help them use our facilities to train for an active shooter incident. God forbid that would ever happen anywhere in the United States, but we had the facility and they provided the law enforcement, and we did those drills together. Those are opportunities that we see, whether it's fire response, law enforcement response, active shooter response, that we will be engaged with your county emergency services. The goal is simple. It's important that we take the load off of the county. We'll have an on-site medical facility. That medical facility is not trauma-for, but it is intended and it is designed and staffed to take off the burden for local hospitals and the local hospital itself, so we can handle basic medical clinic routine needs. The goal is simple: a place that protects our guests, supports your first responders, and gives this community confidence that the workforce is handled and the community is safe. This next slide, I think, is important to point out. You know, it was said earlier by Mr. Williams, the data center has been approved. The workforce is coming, either way. So the real question is how. On one side, you have a managed workforce with a workforce hub, housing, meals, transportation, recreation, security in one place, with clear accountability. It will make a difference. About 58 buses are going to replace 3,000 personal vehicles, and your local housing and hotels will be protected, as I mentioned. On the other side, the same workforce scattered across the county, competing with your residents for rentals, filling your hotels, crowding your roads, and leaning on your police, fire, and EMS. I think one of the biggest fears I've learned over the years from communities and working with them closely is that in any boom, people are fearful that they'll be priced out of town as it relates to real estate. Housing the workforce on one site is how you prevent that. I've seen many boom towns from northern Alberta to South Texas to northeastern Pennsylvania, and the best way to protect your real estate values is to house the workforce that is temporary on an influx basis on one site. So it's really a choice between, the choice isn't between having the workforce or not, it's between having it managed or unmanaged. Now the part that is easy to overlook is the hub doesn't just help reduce the impact on the community, it puts real recurring money into the county. Well, let's start with the most concrete piece. Because this is county's own land, the county gets paid directly. A recurring land lease, a guaranteed predictable revenue stream for as long as the hub operates. That's first and foremost. But on top of that is the tax base. We estimate around $1.5 million a year in property taxes will create value within the county, and roughly an additional $17 million in sales tax over the life of the project just from the housing services alone, before you count the additional sales tax on all the materials, supplies, and equipment we and our contractors buy during construction and operations. If you add local purchasing, and the work with local vendors and contractors, and the money workers will spend in town off hours, that's revenue definitely coming in, while the pressure on housing, hotels, and public services goes down, not up. Real quick on construction and operation. I've had some questions about the number of jobs that are created. During the construction phase, this is definitely about jobs. We estimate about 150 temporary construction jobs. Absolutely, we will try to hire local. And we know that construction cycle time is about 12 months. There's also 250 full-time operation jobs in hospitality, in maintenance, in transportation, security, and food service that will last the life of the project. Now here's the part that outlasts us. Folks who start at the hub are pretty well positioned to move into the data center's permanent operations workforce when construction wraps. We'll hire locally whenever we can, working with Wyoming businesses and schools to make that pipeline real, not just a dream that everyone else comes to the podium. We have a great hospitality program. We look forward to working with the local community college and other restaurateurs to help bring along that pipeline in hospitality. We think that's a great opportunity for this county. Let's talk a little bit about how we build real quick. I just want to touch on it. The hub is designed low impact. And what does that mean? Well, we use LED lighting. That cuts electricity use by 75 to 85%. We're going to be dark sky compliant. As I said, I grew up out west. I can see the stars. Dark sky is important. We're going to have dark sky solar fixtures that keep your night sky dark the way it should be. And we're going to have low flow water fixtures so we can reduce the amount of water that we're using. All native landscaping that hold water, and we'll have all native landscaping, high desert landscaping that will hold water use down by a quarter or more. Let's talk schedule just for a minute. As far as schedule, we're going to build in phases right after if we're officially getting the approval, regulatory First occupancy would be expected somewhere in the first quarter of 2027. We estimate January of 2027, and will be fully built out by September or October of 2027 if all goes well. When the project's done, the buildings come out and the site is stabilized and reclaimed as required. So one of the big questions that I usually get straight away is utilities. So let me be direct on that. For water and wastewater, we'll connect to the City of Evanston's systems at a modest rate of 50 gallons per person per day. And we will add on-site storage for water that shaves our peak demand. So we're not straining the system at the worst moments. For power, we're going to be served by Rocky Mountain Power with full on-site backup power generation. I've been in the north in our workforce hubs in a little town of Tioga, North Dakota, and a whiteout blizzard come through for 7 days, and we had power the entire time. We were the beacon on the hill. And we helped the community, helped feed, we helped fuel. We were a logistics support center in the middle of nowhere. I think those are great examples of our ability to handle things when things go wrong. It's important to share, though, that the infrastructure we pay to put in stays. I call it legacy infrastructure. But about $1 million of upgrades to the city sewer system and another roughly $30 million in utility and site infrastructure on that land left to the county when we leave. The accommodations are temporary. These improvements for you as a county are permanent. So that's really the heart of it. Temporary use, lasting benefit. The housing units are removable, but the groundwork we lay, well, it's permanent and it sits on your land, which means it stays with the county at no cost. The improvements become a free public asset, and the county keeps a development-ready site. Roads, parking, water, sewer, power, lighting, and communications all left in place and ready for whatever comes next and however you decide to use that land. A served, shovel-ready parcel that the county can lease or sell with the upfront cost, without the upfront cost that it normally takes. When we talk about the community, in addition to that, I would just share, because it's your land, it's clear to us you're negotiating from strength on what stays. Beyond the infrastructure the county already keeps, some of what we build can remain too. At the town hall, I mentioned a sports facility, a sports and recreation facility, event or gathering spaces, 100 RV sites, and an on-site medical capacity. Where the community and the commissioners and our project tenant agreed to it, certain assets definitely can be negotiated to stay for public use, funded by the tenant, not by your taxpayers. The point is simple. This project can leave behind more than infrastructure. It can leave behind assets your community uses for years. So, to the question in front of you, the hub is compatible with what's around it. Vacant and industrial land, no nearby homes. The nearest business sits across the interstate. And the hub is situated deep within a 1,000-acre parcel that buffers it on every side, placed deliberately to leave your trails untouched. We built in the mitigation you'd expect. Full perimeter fencing, 24/7 security access control, high desert landscaping, single-story buildings. The buildings in Winnemucca are 3-story. I don't particularly like that. That project owner wanted 3-story. I'm pleased that we will not ruin the skyline. It'll be a single-story facility, and the molding into the natural habitat in terms of the color plans and whatnot. A shuttle program that takes more than 3,000 vehicles off the road every day. We do not anticipate significant adverse impact on any of those uses around it. And our final site plan will meet every applicable development and performance standard as set forth in Chapter 5 of the Uinta County Land Use Resolution. Respectfully, we're not asking you to bend the rules. We're asking you to apply them to a use that fits. I'll close where I started. A project of this size to bring thousands of workers to Uinta County, that part's decided. What you get to decide is whether they're housed in a managed, accountable place or scattered across your towns. The hub protects your local housing, hotels, takes vehicles off the roads, and brings real security and oversight. It pays the county directly. It's going to broaden your tax base and leaves behind infrastructure and a development-ready site you'll use long after we're gone. It's temporary, but the benefit isn't. We think it's the right answer for the project and for this community, and we respectfully ask for your approval of the conditional use permit. I appreciate you, thank you, and I'm glad to take your questions.
We may have some for you that we might bring you back up. Is there someone else from your team that would like to speak? Okay. With that, Mr. Chairman, we'll continue the public hearing, if that's okay, and we will open this for public question or comment. What I would say here is, and I know I don't need to say it, but I will anyway, please be respectful. We recognize that there might be differing opinions and there might be emotions, but be respectful of each other. If you'd like to come up and ask a question or make a comment, I'd like you to address the chairman and no one else. Address the chairman, and we will do our best to make sure that your questions get answered before we get done. And then at the end, then we'll talk about the conditional use permit, the meat of it a little bit more. So, is there anyone here? And if you do, if you would, give us your name and your address, where you live, and again, speak to the chairman, and you're welcome to have whatever comment or question you might have. Is there anybody would like to speak regarding this proposal? Go ahead. Come on up, sir. Either one of you. I saw both your hands, so.
Mike Goss. I live in 209 Aspen Court in Lyman, Wyoming. I spoke at the County Commissioners meeting in Lyman, and I told them that I came in mostly neutral, slightly negative towards the data center. I could see some issues with data centers, and one of my questions answered. Of the 9 questions I asked, they answered 8. One of them is going to be answered by the DEQ. I came over here tonight specifically to try and understand what was going on with this facility that's going to be placed here, and I was just hoping we could build it closer to Lyman. I think that'd be a lot better fit for it personally. But, there again, I have a lot of questions that I came in here with. They answered most of the questions. I mean, I was here in the 70s and 80s and saw the boom, and it hit the valley like a thunderstorm, and it was a mess. And I think that this resolves a lot of the issues that I had about bringing 3,500 people into the communities. I mean, we're all going to feel some impact. We know that. That's not a mystery to anybody. But I think they're going to mitigate the vast majority of the impact. And there again, I came to this meeting quite neutral, and I think I'm in favor of this conditional use permit, even if it is too far away from the valley for us to benefit from. But I think it's going to be a good asset for Uinta County.
Sure.
Good evening, Commission and Mr. Chairman. My name is Eric Wyatt. I'm from Lyman, Wyoming. I just wanted to come and speak tonight in favor of granting the conditional use permit for this temporary workforce housing facility. Just as Mike mentioned, him and I were talking, it would be really nice if this wound up over in the valley, if you guys didn't have it over here. I know many in our community have very real, very valid concerns about the influx of workers. A lot of residents cite memories or have heard stories of the boom days from 50 years ago and the chaos that came with it. But this is exactly why we need to approve this permit tonight. Target Hospitality has a proven track record of designing facilities specifically to address these historical concerns. They aren't building a Wild West camp. They are building a highly regulated, secure, and self-contained environment The reality we have to face tonight isn't whether these workers are coming. As it's been stated, they're coming. We know this. And it has, it's where they're going to live and when they get here that's important. We do not need, if we don't approve a managed facility, those workers will inevitably overflow into our local neighborhoods and rental markets, which, as you know, is already overtapped here in Uinta County and also Wyoming. This solves that problem. We won't have that influx that pushes lifelong residents out of their homes or not be able to afford and pay for their housing. If the CUP is not granted, this will become a greater problem. Target Hospitality provides a crucial buffer that protects our county's housing market, stabilizes costs, and minimizes the daily strain on our infrastructure. Furthermore, this permit opens the door to immense immediate local benefit. Target Hospitality, as they've showed tonight, has indicated that when fully operational, they project to have 250 long-term jobs. I like to tell people those aren't, we hear the word jobs when we think of one person. These are the local jobs. These are the people in the community that will have a job there. That's 250 households that are impacted. That's 250 families getting a paycheck. I know a lot of people that could use that money. I know a lot of people that need those jobs, and that keeps those people here. They're interested in partnering with local to get the training and stuff. They already said that they will go with Wyoming or locals first, or take priority with locals. That's an important thing. They're not bringing in these workers elsewhere and stuff. So just those 250 jobs or 250 people, they're going to come back out. They might not be staying at the facility. They're staying at their homes. They're paying rent. They're paying taxes that go to helping pay our schools that we need money for. They help pay for other things in the county. Ultimately, the conditional use permit gives Uinta County the upper hand. It gives us the strict local control to set the rules on security, traffic management, and the eventual full restoration of the site once the construction is complete. It allows us to manage the growth responsibly and proactively instead of letting it manage us. I urge the Commission to approve this permit and protect our community's future. The partnership between Target Hospitality and Prometheus Hyperscale and Uinta County, I believe, is a way to show the rest of Wyoming and the United States how to do this the right way. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Marika Rossi. I live at 800 County Road 167 in Evanston. I have a few questions about what was talked about tonight. One is, it looks like the housing is meant for only single people. So does that mean that no children will be in this facility?
We'll try to get that. Just go ahead and ask your question, and we'll come back to it and try to get it answered.
Oh, okay. I also wanted to know what the lease was. What is the county going to get in that lease? Because that wasn't on the slide. I was interested to know that a letter of support from Uinta County came with this, and I don't know what that means. Was that the commission? So you can answer that as well. This letter, my husband and I wrote it, and if you'll just bear with me, I was invited to read it, so I'm going to. Regarding the conditional use permit application by Target Logistics LLC for the Workforce Hub east of Bear River State Park, the project. We are residents of Uinta County and own 2 buildings and businesses downtown Evanston on Main Street. We reviewed the conditional use permit application submitted by Target Logistics and have been following Prometheus Hyperscale Data Center project for which the CUP is intended for its construction. We urge the Planning and Development Office of Uinta County to consider these issues set out below in your review of the CUP application. We believe this project is not consistent with the character and pattern of development in the area and will create substantial adverse effects on neighboring land uses. The land proposed for the workforce hub is directly adjacent to the Bear River State Park and is intended to connect to the utilities and service in place at the park. From the Wyoming State Parks website, Bear River State Park is a 324-acre day-use-only park. It is home to small herds of bison and elk, boasts several miles of both paved and packed gravel trails. The Bear River State Park Visitor Center hosts taxidermy displays that showcases Wyoming's impressive array of wildlife, as well as live native snakes. The Visitor Center provides travelers with state of Wyoming tourism information. The land surrounding the park is largely undeveloped, to the east, south, and south bounded by the north by Interstate 80, and to the west by the main east-west line of the Union Pacific Railroad, and land owned by the state of Wyoming. Connecting to the park is a 17-acre mountain bike trail system and walking path that leads into Evanston Bear River ponds. The Bear River runs through the Bear River State Park and along the walking path into Evanston. The workforce hub is proposed as a 127-acre fully fenced compound designed to house up to 4,000 non-permanent construction workers in an industrial-style development. It will have over 20 acres of temporary housing pads to accommodate 105 common housing units to house these 4,000 workers. It will also have 3,528 parking spaces and 143,000 square feet over 3 acres of common area comprised of dining, laundry, recreation center, and multi-use facilities. This will be the largest concentration of workers in the greater Evanston area and possibly in Uinta County. It will be a small city with all the infrastructure, appearance, and attendant stressors that come along with this type of industrial development. Putting this facility next to the state park, intended as a refuge for people to relax in tranquil setting, is wholly inconsistent with the character and pattern of the existing development in this area. Substantial adverse effects on neighboring land use. This project will negatively impact the Bear River State Park and neighboring land uses in ways never intended for this area. A significant increase in air, water, noise, and light pollution. The additional pressures on utilities, roads, medical, and social services that a development of this size will create. Crime, drugs, and vice that will come with that size a non-permanent population. Safety concerns on surface roads and Interstate 80 due to the stated 80 or more bus trips each AM, PM, and to and from the job site approximately 10 miles away. The road leading to Bear River State Park is a light-duty, infrequently used single-lane road. This complex and anticipated traffic will cause significant deterioration to this road, requiring more frequent repair. Additional adverse effects when conditions deteriorate in the winter, such as snow removal and access by emergency vehicles. An industrial complex of this size will create substantial adverse effects for the environment and will have significant financial impact on the city of Evanston, Uinta County, and their residents. We urge you to be cautious about the claims made by the applicant and ensure that their promises are backed by enforceable contractual obligations. Does Target have the financial resources, leadership, and experience to complete this project? What other projects have they completed, and were they on time, on budget, and were problems dealt with? In 2024, the U.S. government terminated a contract with Target over operation of the South Texas Family Residential Center, Immigration Detention Center, which impacted Target's share price significantly, 31% decrease. Why did the U.S. government terminate this contract? Will those same issues impact this project? Target operates immigration detention centers in addition to workforce hubs for data centers and construction projects. The layout of the proposed workforce hub in Evanston is very similar to immigration detention centers or medium security prisons, especially with centralized common facilities and fenced perimeter. Will this project be considered for transition to a detention center or prison? What will happen when the first workforce hub is no longer needed? What will be left behind? What will the cost to Uinta County for the transition and post-use maintenance? Recommendations to mitigate such adverse effects. As your directive states on the Planning and Development page of Uinta County, Wyoming website, if the proposed use would create adverse effects on neighboring land uses, measures proposed to mitigate such effects shall be evaluated and must be implemented as a condition of the use. At a minimum, we urge you to evaluate these recommendations and implement them. An in-depth study of the direct and indirect environmental impact, air, light, noise pollution, groundwater contamination, waste disposal, and resource and financial impact, electricity and natural gas consumption of this project on neighboring landowners, residents of the city of Evanston and Uinta County. A thorough assessment by affected public services, police, sheriff, jail, courts, fire, medical, public works, social services, and utilities, and schools, of the impact of this of a project this size projected by target on neighboring landowners, residents of the city of Evanston and Uinta County infrastructure, including quantifiable financial impacts and the additional service that would require, and full disclosure for each tax abatement, exemption, incentive, grant, loan, tax increment, financing arrangement, bond, or community benefit agreement entered into, applied for, or promised, or contemplated by any local, state, or federal governmental body in connection with this project. The granting or issuing body, the specific statutory authority relied upon for the grant, the financing mechanism and source of repayment, and whether any portion constitutes indebtedness of Uinta County or the city of Evanston in excess of current year taxes, such as a vote of the people is required under Article 16, Section 4 of the Wyoming Constitution. Disclosure of the per household and per ratepayer cost exposure of county residents, including whether the cost of any electrical grid upgrades, generation capacity, or other infrastructure required to serve this project would be borne by existing ratepayers and taxpayers. A bond, an enforceable contractual obligation by Target Hospitality LLC, sufficient to ensure the promised project is complete and that the specified legacy assets are left at the location. A separate decommissioning and reclamation bond sufficient to cover end-of-life dismantling, site restoration, removal of the non-legacy assets so that the cost of an abandoned, obsolete facility is not left to the county or its residents, and written assurances and enforceable restrictions prohibiting any future conversion of the workforce hub by Prometheus Hyperscale, Target Hospitality, or any successor or third-party operation to detention, correctional, or any other use unrelated to the workforce project. In our opinion, these adverse effects cannot be mitigated without considerable effort and cost, and this project will still be abhorrently inconsistent with the character and pattern of the development in the area. We urge you to fully evaluate these issues, if necessary, conduct an independent survey of Uinta County residents to assess if a majority of support for the project is presented, and ensure that the safety and financial well-being of the residents of Uinta County are protected before issuing the conditional use permit requested by Target Hospitality for the proposed workforce hub east of the city of Evanston. Thank you, and I hope these things will be considered. I know some of the stuff was talked about in this slide show that we saw tonight, but I would just like to ensure that everybody really does get a voice in this. I have heard it said that the residents were told about this, and at the last meeting it sounded like everyone was in, but we had people come to us who said that they lived near the proposed site, or now the CUP given for the data center, and that they were not happy about it. So not everyone is happy about this situation. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please.
Tina Johnson, 425 Hickey Avenue. So the first thing that I want to say is, when it comes to the data center itself, we were told when we questioned it that because it was on private property, that it was not our concern. It's a private business, and we always want to go with the property owners.
Ma'am,
Yes.
this is a hearing simply on
No,
the data center.
I know.
So we need to
I'm so
focus
sorry.
on that,
Okay.
on that issue.
So with that, then because it was private property, but then now this is, because this is on county land, so the project that was on private property that was a secret is now filtered over into the county, and I don't feel that the county the people did not know. The first thing that anybody heard about the workforce hub was the letter of intent that was in the Uinta County Herald. We haven't had any public hearings for this prior to today. It was posted by the state park, is the only way that we even knew that there was a meeting. So I would ask that we postpone, that we ask the community. This changes the entire community. Everybody should have a vote. They put the casino in. There's not enough help even for the casino. There is not enough help. This will take people from Jody's. I mean, who are we going to hire for this workforce hub? Are they going to stay in the workforce hub? Are they going to be housed there? It's going to take away Jody's, Suds Brothers. We're struggling to find employees now. So I ask that we consider these things before we approve the project. That's what I have to say about that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Langford, please. Then we'll come back to you, Mr. Stewart.
Gary Ellingford, 101 Horn Road, Evanston. I'm your closest neighbor to this project, me and Pilot. Just to go back and look at the structure of access is my main concern of what we see here. I know we built a lot of these bridges all over the state. We built half these bridges through Evanston. When they was initially built, the ramps did not have curbs on them. D. Bernardi, the resident engineer, put the curbs on them to make this a more inaccessible access here in Evanston, just to guide people to Rock Springs. I would say, I live right there. When the roads get blocked, I've taken 4 hours to clean out the trucks that have been backed up there in the winter time. The highway department is building the new truck terminal parking lot facility here 2 miles down the road there, and that will probably alleviate a lot of the problem with our winter conditions and plugging that interchange. But I think if this is going to be built, it would take 2 to 4 years to get the highway department to come in there and fix these ramps, so they might be close to accessible for the amount of traffic you're talking about here. And so I think the interchange itself needs to be addressed very carefully to facilitate traffic there. I don't know exactly how I would approach it, but I know that double 4-lane ramps would be needed, and the bottom where it was available to put that a 4-lane road each way to accommodate slow traffic and faster traffic. So I think your engineers in department, or the engineers, or the state of Wyoming, needs to be addressed first to see what might be done with that interchange to make it serviceable with this amount of traffic. From what I heard earlier, most of it, I assume the traffic would be bused, which would help, not having the individual cars and having more people in less automobiles. So I think that would, be quite beneficial. But I think you also ought to consider traffic lights there to handle it so you don't have a half-hour wait while a string of traffic gets through. So I think that needs to be addressed quite carefully and started on immediately because of the length of time it takes the highway department to get anything done. So, I mixed emotions about it. You like to live in Wyoming all by yourself. You also like income, and I think with the tax base, which would be quite beneficial to the county, and there's a lot of good sides to it. There's, the bad sides that I think this beats a prison quite immensely in my estimation. So I think I would sooner see this project than a prison sitting out there. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart, you?
My name's Gary Stewart. Personal residence is 122 Grandview, but I spend almost all my time at 1005 East Service Road, which is directly across from the proposed Mancamp. And we're against having the Mancamp in that location. We're not against the data center, we're not against the Mancamp, but in that location, dead set against it because of its proximity to the state park and then the other land uses. And I don't know why, to tell you the truth, I can understand how it possibly happened because Uinta County owned the property, why it isn't being built up by where the data center's being built. You have right now in the state of Wyoming, and if you read Cowboy State Daily, Cheyenne is just basically they've scrapped a 5,600 person man camp. It was proposed, the residents are against it, and they are light years ahead of what this project is. Microsoft, Meta, Tallgrass have all either built or it's under construction. They're talking about annexing another 3,500 acres, and they're not using a man camp. And I've got a problem with 3,200 person man camp that increases the population of Evanston by 30%. You also just drive up the road to Kemmer, TerraPower, and Bechtel said no man camp, no man camp, no man camp, and now all of a sudden man camp. And possibly there's some other options. Southwest Wyoming has a lot of experience with man camps. Exxon built a 7,000 person. Chevron and Amoco, just 10 miles outside of town here, built a 4,000 person man camp. Can't understand why that couldn't be used rather than putting it right next to the freeway. Other than that, I got some concerns about notices to the general public. I don't think there's sufficient notice because I've talked to very few people in the city that are actually for this, and they just don't know what's going on. I've got an issue right now, and I contacted the Industrial Siting Commission this morning because these guys are just a layer of Prometheus. I know they've applied for the permit, but they do not have a qualified exemption from submitting a permit with the Industrial Siting Commission. To me, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. I know they just submitted it today. Prometheus did, but I think grouping everything together is very important to the community, which means the man camp, what Prometheus is using for power, and the duration of the project. I don't know if you guys are familiar. We're very familiar with data centers because we've done some work for them. But this size data center, right now you can pick your favorite AI platform, whether it's Google or OpenAI. This project right now is going between 50 and $75 billion. And the reason why I bring that up is Prometheus, I mean, it sounds, you look at the resumes, it sounds like an important company, but I don't know who they are. And I don't think anybody's been able to tell me that they're going to be able to come up with that kind of money. Cheyenne's different because it's Meta and Microsoft, but I'm concerned about where the money's coming from when you start talking about that kind of dollars. Also, I take exception to the two ladies that spoke. They're 100% correct on a lot of things. But I see this project, like I said, we've got a lot of experience with them. The Mancamp is going to be there 8 to 10 years because YDOT is already behind substantially on that pad that you guys are looking for. And talking to them, they're looking probably like 2028 before that pad is available. That means that they can build it in 1 year and Prometheus actually constructs 5 years. This project is going to be laid out for 8 to 10 years. And I'm also in agreement that there should be some sort of assurance, either in the form of performance bond, that the thing is dismantled and we don't get into a situation like these wind turbine farms and everything else where the permits are issued, the property's tied up, and there's no performance. Something, and the lady, I forget which one, it'd be interesting to see what the terms of the agreement they're talking to between Uinta County, what the monthly lease amount is, and what the terms of it are in the documentation. Thank you.
Jim Johnson, 425 Hickey. I was going to bring up I'd be interested to see as well what the terms are and whether or not it's market rate on our county property. The other thing I'd like to know is if there's any kind of impact fees that this project's going to have to pay to the city and the county. I get it, it's a fenced-in area, but those people have 3,000 cars. They get off work at 5, they're going to come into town. They get bused to this site, that's great. They're going to, what percent, 25%, so you got 1,000 people or whatever that get off at 5 o'clock, they're in the community, they're driving around, and that is an impact on the city, the streets, the police department, and stuff like that. So nothing has ever been said about what kind of impact fees that are going to be charged or associated with this use permit. So that's all I have.
Hello, Jason Banks, 312 Clark Street in Evanston. I'm also here to represent the Bear River Outdoor Recreation Alliance, which is a nonprofit that partners with the county to develop, build, and maintain the bike trails that were mentioned previously, adjacent to the state park, but on the specific parcel that this is concerning. I came here to the work session and met with Target Hospitality, Gareth, Ryan, and I believe Troy was on the call. And they had good conversations regarding what our concern is, which is the trail itself. We've had an MOU with the county since 2013. We've built those trails since 2013. We have 17 miles of multi-use single track trail, which is hiking and biking. It seems toward the plans and what these guys have shared with me and were willing to talk to me about is that those trails will not be affected as far as physically and in the zone of where the trails are. But we just wanted to make a public comment that we want to be involved in the process and make sure there's considerations for that existing trail system. A lot of the folks have spoken about utilizing those trails out there, trying to preserve them. It's not just the existence of the trails or the trails themselves, but also the experience of the trails as well as the safety out there. So we just kind of wanted to see, like a lot of, I think, the folks in the community their concerns is that that's in the language of a lot of these agreements, and we're making sure that we're covering existing community-based infrastructure that's out there now. So, you know, as an organization, we would ask to please allow us to be involved, as well as to ensure that any agreements that are made would physically protect the trails and their boundaries, the access to the trails, try to mitigate impact on the experience of using the trails, as well as to ensure the safety of the users of the trails. We would hope that anybody who's visiting from town, if this is approved, that those trails are a part of not only the community, but for visitors as well. But we want to make sure the experience and the safety is protected, as well as the access to the trails. So I would just ask you to make sure that in any agreements or in the language of the permit, that those are in there. They mentioned them in the PowerPoint, and that's great, and I appreciate that. But like a lot of the community concern, we just want to make sure that those things are binding. And we look forward to working together with these guys if this is something that goes forward, in order to just make sure that those investments that we've made in partnership with the county stay the way that they are, and are continue to be open to the community for enjoyment. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please. Here's my only problem here. Jared Houghton, 234 Medicine Butte, Unit B. I actually had a question, two questions come up throughout this presentation. If this is an important part of the building of the data center, why wasn't it done, why wasn't this proposed before the data center? It's a little odd that it comes after the data center, and we're being told now, hey, data center's coming, whether we do this or not, you're gonna have to deal with it. Now, I'm not implying anything nefarious, I'm just saying if that's the case, this should have been the first thing. The second thing is during the town hall, issues?
No.
Okay. During the town hall, it was brought up that there was going to be there's going to actually be a requirement or a goal of hiring 60% of one gender, which means 40% of another gender. And during the conversation, it was said that the priority is going to be hiring local. Now, if you have more of the less preferred gendered and or less of the preferred gendered and more of the the non-preferred gendered, is that going to affect how hiring is going to be done and the prioritization of the locals? Those are the only questions I have. Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I go?
Please.
Derek Worley, 701 Morsley Street, just right up the road. I've been in Evanston resident for about 10 years now, and I'll keep this short because Jason kind of touched on some of my points. I would just like to point out that this proposed site, just south of the interstate there, for people who, maybe applicants who have not been to that site or spent a lot of time there, it's just a patch of sagebrush with a lot of hills. But I want to point out that that sagebrush is extremely important to a lot of people in this community, and with the biking, the recreation, the hiking. I just ask if this application is approved, if there can be assurances regarding safety, as Jason had mentioned, just in terms of the amount of people going out there to have an evening walk, run the dogs, go on a bike ride. Just echoing how many miles of trail are there that go back there. I heard in the presentation about a security force, 24/7 surveillance, perimeter fence. That all sounds fantastic. I just know a lot of residents have a lot of hesitancy for safety going out there with upwards of 3,000 people. I am an 8th grade school teacher here in town. I have 14-year-old students who go out there on their own, biking all across. And I just know that their parents would like to have some assurances that when they are miles and miles deep on those trails, that there are just safety means in place to keep this potentially group of 3,000 people who might not have ties to our community, keeping them separate from our people exploring, I'm getting tripped up in my words, people recreating out on those trails. So if this is approved, I would just feel comfort in hearing those assurances in terms of security, safety, things like that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I do.
Tiffany Sager, I'm the superintendent out at Bear River State Park. I think my biggest concern is traffic control. We get over 500,000 people at our state park every year. Wintertime, it is a problem. I don't know if there is a study or anything like that does talk about the traffic that we get. It was mentioned by Mr. Ellingford about the semis and everything that go out there, or when the roads are closed. We get stuck out there. We have traffic. There is so much traffic underneath that interstate that's there. We have the police on one side. I have a person that does a little bit of law enforcement at the park, that he comes and does traffic control to try to get the trucks to move out of there. We've had people stuck there. I've had employees that cannot make it to work because of the traffic that's out there during the wintertime. And I was just wanting to know if there's going to be some sort of, I guess, with all the buses that are going to be going in and out, going to these places, if there's going to be some sort of another ingress or egress, or if it's just going to be the one that goes by the state park, because it is a safety concern. You know, people have accidents and that kind of thing out there at the state park, so we got to have that capability of being able to get out and get in to the areas that are there. So that's kind of a consideration if there's going to be plowing and that kind of thing, if it's going to be by Target or if it's going to be somebody else. County, right now we're doing the plowing and the road maintenance out there so that semis can park on that road so that it's not so congested. And they keep coming, they don't stop. Utah doesn't shut the roads down at all, and because we are on the very east end, they just keep coming and they don't stop coming in, and that they want to be at that end of the road so that they can get down the road. So if there was more of a study maybe before it happens, I'm not for it either way, for or against it. I would just like it to be more accessible for everybody, so they can get into and out of the park when necessary. And we do like our people to be able to come out and visit. Like I said, we get over 500,000 people to the park every year, so just a consideration. New roads, I don't know, something just to help out. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Commission. Loretta Callis, your county attorney. I'm not going to get into a lot of the issues because I'm not here to speak on behalf of or for Target Hospitality. There were some questions, though, that I think that are specifically related to issues that do apply to my office. As to first the letter of support, as you all are aware, our land use plan specifically requires that the owner of property, if the applicant for a conditional use permit is different than the owner of the property, then the owner of the property has to provide permission for them to go through this process. And so there is a letter that has been provided by the commission simply saying, yes, go ahead and move forward with this process so that it can go into consideration. So as you have that letter with you, the county has provided permission to Target to move forward with this process, and so that is the letter that was addressed to you all. I am confident you all know that, but the general public may not. And so that is the entirety of what that letter is at this juncture, and I know you guys know that. The other issue is, and I believe that you know this from our planning and zoning There is no lease currently that has been reached. And the reason for that is because it has been my counsel to our commission that they should, if this is passed through this board, that they should be unhindered in relation to having concerns related to what promises have been made or what benefits may come to the county to provide for some inducement for them to accept a conditional use permit. That should be something that they consider on the base of the permit itself, under the standards and practices of the land use. And so for that reason, I'm sure that Mr. Williams has communicated to you all that one of the conditions we would ask you to place on this permit, if it is granted today, is that it is subject to the Uinta County, the subdivision, the political subdivision that it is in Wyoming, with Target Hospitality. So it would not come into effect unless we can successfully reach lease terms. But again, I have advised the Board of County Commissioners that they should consider this if it moves forward without those inducements in place, so that they can fairly and adequately consider the CUP, but that it would not go into effect unless we can reach that agreement. Does that spur any questions? I'm seeing that. I just wanted to answer those two questions because those are especially associated with us. I would further note, and Jason did address this, the Rio Oso Trail system, of course, is on county property. And so in relation to those issues, that will be subject, I'm confident, to our lease terms, but also I would encourage Jason and any concerned citizens to provide for objective criteria that they believe can address safety issues rather than the subjective concerns. And that can be addressed whether it is in this proceeding, if it is in a proceeding for the conditional use, if this goes to the commission, or in proceedings that will be public hearings related to any lease.
So you're telling us that if this goes through the commission, it still is not binding until they have an agreement with the county?
That is what condition we're asking not only this board, but I anticipate asking the commission to bind. And in speaking to Target Hospitality, Target Logistics is aware that that is a condition we're asking for, and yes, Mr. Covelo, that would be specifically that none of this would be binding unless we can achieve a mutually beneficial agreement in a lease subsequent to these actions. But I do not want the commission to feel pressured or induced to grant a conditional use permit. I believe it's important for them to consider that independently, and then after that for us to determine if we can reach a mutually beneficial agreement. Is there any further questions? Mr. Matthews has his normal scowl. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to answer? Yeah, sure. Come back up and then we can go from there.
One thing on that. Ryan Joyce, I'm with Target, Senior Vice President and Deputy General Counsel. Just to the point Loretta brought up on the condition of the lease, fully support that. That's not a problem at all. That as a condition to the permit that we reach a mutually agreeable lease. That makes sense to us. So. Troy's going to try to answer some of these questions, I think.
Well, there's a lot to unpack. I'm going to try and work backwards. Mr. Derrick, I believe.
Yes.
Regarding safety of the site. I will also talk about some of the conditions that we can set forth to quantify some of the safety. I want to talk a little bit about the workforce itself and the workforce composition. And I appreciate the fact that you're an 8th grade teacher, and safety and security is paramount to everyone in the community, including my staff as well. The skilled labor and the workforce composition, some of it will be local for the data center. We are working closely with the potential general contractor and trying to get an understanding of what that workforce looks like. Very different than boom cycles of past, where if you could fog a mirror, you could get a job in oil and gas. I know that because I've been a part of it. In data center builds and the infrastructure build out, power generation, it requires a significant amount of skilled labor, journeyman electricians, pipe fitters, HVAC. These folks women and men, will come from all over the country if they cannot source those locally in Wyoming or Utah or Colorado. But make no mistake, the general contractors across the United States are competing for skilled labor. And with that said, these are hardworking folks, women and men, that are wanting to put their skill and their craft to work. They will live in the workforce hub. I think it was Mr. Stewart that said it best. He has a lot of experience with quote-unquote man camps. And again, it's not a matter if the workforce is coming. Do you want to have it unmanaged or do you want to have it managed? And I appreciated his comments that he supports that it be managed. Maybe not at this location, Mr. Stewart, but definitely he wants it to be managed. The alternative of an unmanaged workforce is, I think, disastrous for the community, as Mr. Thornock pointed out with the Stargate project in Texas. I've seen it firsthand. So, Mr. Derrick, I'm not addressing your concerns directly, but I will tell you that the single track trails and the trail system is important to our company. It's important to the guests of the Workforce Hub. We too will have a trail system around, a single track trail around the Workforce Hub for exercise. We hope that all of the skilled labor, women and men, actually participate in the trail system and enjoy that. I'll take it a step further. I don't want to quantify it, but I've shared with Mr. Wilson and others, Jason, that we would like to enhance the trail system. There's been some desire to take the road to nowhere into a road to somewhere. It's my learnings over the past year that there have been a lot of attempts to create some type of opportunity for the road to nowhere. You've committed, you've spent the money. Is it a biking event? Is it, I don't know, is it fairgrounds? Is it rodeo? That's up to you to decide. But I can attest that the safety and security will be paramount, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that we work collaboratively with law enforcement and the local EMS. I'm not sure, I missed the gentleman's name, but I want to address it. There is no goal for gender-specific staffing. Let me clarify. Approximately 60% of the hospitality staff within my our organization today identifies as female. Simple. Some workforce hubs can have 40%, 30%. We're not gender specific. There is no ratio. There is no quota. We'll hire the best qualified folks. We aim to hire local, no doubt. I'm going to jump around a little bit. I hope we can hire local. I think it was Ms. Johnson that said, we're having a hard time at some of our establishments even hiring. We will not be poaching or stealing employees from local establishments. That's not the goal. If folks want to come work for us for a great wage with 401k and retirement and great health benefits, so be it. But I will tell you, there is a large percentage of our workforce that travels, and they travel from across the country. They work in hospitality markets, and they're willing to travel, and they live on site. It's a unique workforce hub in that our employees live with our guests, literally in the workforce hub. They work 6 weeks straight, and they work 12-hour days. It's hard work, and they do that because they have the opportunity to provide for their family. So we will absolutely try and hire local, no question. I will tell you it's challenging in rural environments where the workforce is almost gainfully employed already. I think that is the case nearly here in your county as well. Mr. Johnson, I think Ms. Loretta has addressed the market rate discussion on the lease. We fully support the condition as Ryan stated that we'll work through that as a condition that will have mutually beneficial terms as part of it. Working backwards again on the traffic side, Miss Tiffany, traffic control. To reiterate, approximately 58 buses in the morning and in the evening. Work schedules are to be determined by the general contractor, but Our understanding is that work on the project site should begin as early as 6 a.m. Most of those workers will begin having breakfast around 4 a.m. and they'll board the buses shortly thereafter, somewhere between 5 o'clock, 4:45, and 5 o'clock in staggered starts. So when the roads are open on Interstate 80, we do have a traffic plan in terms of the shuttling of personnel to the project site. The road closure, Ms. Tiffany, is definitely a challenge, I think, for the community. I personally have been stuck on Interstate 80 about 6 times, road closures. I understand that parking takes place in the park itself. We've talked to the head of EMS about this challenge. He expressed concern about being able to keep roads cleared and how we would do that together with the county and with EMS and the state. And there are definite challenges to that. We would be agreeable to setting forth some conditions on the maintenance of those roads, including the clearing of snow and ice and debris to make sure that the roads are cleared as much as we possibly can. I know truck drivers. My dad was a truck driver. They find they're going to get their head down and get their bed down, and they want to hit the road as soon as those roads open up. So they put those trucks wherever they can. They'll stack them. And we're going to do everything we can to work with YDOT and the local county to make sure that we keep the roads clear. We have controlled gated access where they're not going to back up on our roads on the private on the county land as well. So as a condition, we would agree to addressing the maintenance of those of the road that is shared as well. There's a lot to unpack, and I apologize. Ms. Rossi had some questions regarding children and singles. This is for a workforce that is dedicated for single workers, women and men. No families will reside on campus at the workforce hub. Only authorized guests and visitors. This is a place of work. I often say it's an extension of the workplace. The general contractor that will be building the data center for Prometheus will work long days, 12 hours, and the workforce hub is an extension of that workplace. Many of the skilled workers are going to come to the area because of great income and great pay and great compensation. I would share with you that they're not going to put those jobs at risk for making mistakes in the community. I'm not going to say that it's not going to go without incident, but in a managed, safe, accountable workforce hub, you have fewer incidents, no doubt, as opposed to the opposite. The 2 buildings and businesses downtown, Ms. Rossi, what I have found in the communities that we have served, I'll give you some examples in Texas. There's a famous ranch called the Perini Ranch, and many of you may know it, but it's a cattle ranch, and they're famous for their steak. And we have, and the 4 Sixes, if you've ever watched the show Yellowstone, the 4 Sixes Ranch, we partnered with both of those ranches to bring in their beef and serve that on occasion to the workers. I would contest whether it's Miss Rossi or other retail or businesses that have local flavor. The ice cream shop over at the coffee place, the best milkshake I think I've ever had. I'd love to serve their ice cream at the workforce hub. Those are the opportunities that we look for in the community. And whoever that entrepreneur is, he's doing a great job because the raspberry milkshakes are the best. But so Ms. Rossi, we would want to work with you if there's opportunities to get your products somehow in the hands of our guests. Let's see if I can go down this list here. Does Target have the financial backing? Appreciate the question. We are a publicly held company, which from a governance perspective requires us from the SEC to manage the business with great fiduciary duty. As an officer of the company myself, I take that duty with 100% intent and sincerity. I will tell you that our balance sheet is pristine. We have the ample capital. We have 0 net debt at this point. And we continue to grow the business. So from a financial perspective, We are very strong. I encourage anyone in the room or anyone listening that would like to understand more about the financial strength of the company, please feel free. All of that information is public. Will this facility roll into an ICE facility or detention center? So for the record, those are not detention centers. I'm proud of the work that we've done on the humanitarian front for the U.S. government. It's survived 4 presidential cycles, including 2 Democratic cycles and 2 Republican cycles. The South Texas Family Residential Center is exactly that. We were called upon to help vulnerable families, women and children only. Under the Obama administration at that time, when vulnerable women and children were seeking asylum into the United States, we were asked to build housing for that population of vulnerable people. And I'll be honest with you, I've been with the company a long time. I backed away from the table and said, that's not what we do. They said, but you can build housing faster and better quality and serve better food than anybody in the country. Can you help us? And we did. And there's a third party that manages that. And so we're proud of the work that we've done from a humanitarian effort. And I think anybody, left, right, center, libertarian, doesn't matter, will help vulnerable people in need. And that's what we did. That's what we've done. And we've done it time and time again. As a condition, Counselor, you can help me here, but as a condition, if it makes people feel more comfortable, there will be no transition to quote-unquote detention centers or prisons. We don't build detention centers or prisons, and we would not convert a workforce housing facility into a detention center in this county, period. Where are the employees going to come from? I think I addressed that. Traffic. Why isn't this facility being built out by the data center? I'll speak to this, and if Mr. Thornock would like to, you can opine as well. But the critical infrastructure, the water, sewer, and power, is critical to the site selection. We were not a part of that process in those discussions. The county and Prometheus had those discussions in terms of what site would be best fit for this type of workforce hub. It does have city water. I didn't share, but we will be buying water from the city. We estimate that spend is in the millions in terms of how much water we're buying from the city. On impact fees, every rural town and community that we've operated in, we've actually helped with infrastructure, just like we're going to do here. We're going to spend more than $1 million on the city's sewer system to make critical repairs and upgrade that system. And we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that the taxpayers don't hold that back. We've always contended that we are self-sustained in that regard. So the answer to the question is the workforce hub is proposed being built on this location, not at the site for lots of reasons, including critical infrastructure. But secondly, having a workforce hub with the workforce located on site creates a lot of issues as it relates to morale. Just like all of us, we have an opportunity to have a commute home and drive back to our homes at night. I can't imagine if I slept in my office every night, or it just from a morale perspective, I will tell you we have a lot of data to support this. We've always cited the workforce hubs within 20-minute commute time to the project site from a morale, productivity, and safety perspective to keep them off-site. They are normal working people like us that deserve to have a separation between their workplace and the home, and that is one of the big drivers that was decided. Target does not have an exemption from industrial siting. I'm going to defer to Ryan for that. I'll come back to that. Is this project going to be laid out 8 to 10 years? All projects, I think Mr. Stewart, as you know, can slide to the right for a variety of factors. Our plan right now is to support the data center build over approximately a 5-year duration, subject to any changes. So that's the plan as it stands today. Reclamation of facilities, are you going to abandon? Well, first and foremost, the investment, the capital investment that the company is making in the workforce hub is our capital investment, and the modular buildings that you see, over 3,000 beds, will be taken. And they'll be maintained, they'll be cleaned regularly, and they will be dismantled, and they will be removed from the site, and we will have stabilization of the soil and reclamation of the site, subject to any improvements that you would like to be left behind, to be negotiated as part of the lease. Okay? What kind of impact fees will be associated with a conditional use permit? I think this is something that should be discussed. Ms. Loretta and Ryan and commissioners, what I would share there is our aim is to have no impact. If there are infrastructure requirements by Rocky Mountain Power for upgrades, we bear the burden of upgrades and the costs associated with that, and/or our tenant, not the taxpayer. The rates set forth by Rocky Mountain Power are according to Rocky Mountain Powers and the state's regulatory commission, not us. But we want no impact on the community as it relates to the infrastructure. Next question is gender being considered. I think I've answered that. I think that's everything. Ryan, would you like to address the industrial siting?
There's just one question about that.
Oh. What say you? Oh. So we are very familiar with the project that was referenced in Cheyenne, a 5,600 bed Mancamp, and not to be derogatory, but I'm very familiar with the Mancamp provider. They have built Mancamps in Texas. They continue to build Mancamps in Texas. I think the decision to indefinitely postpone that project was a good decision by the Mancamp provider. And as far as it relates to Cheyenne, I'll tell you the difference, and Evanston. That particular Mancamp provider did not have the support of a project owner, does not have the support of Meta, Microsoft, or any other hyperscaler in that area. I mentioned that Mr. Thornhock is a thought leader. Those projects in Cheyenne are suffering from a lack of housing for the workforce because they did not get in front of it, unlike Mr. Thornhock, who is saying, I know it's going to impact the community. I need to have a managed workforce infrastructure plan. And so he started that process more than a year ago. Those folks in Cheyenne, unfortunately, did not start that process. There are many projects in the Cheyenne area outside of data center development, including some Department of Defense projects that are proposed that will cause a massive influx of temporary workers in that area. I can't speak to Cheyenne and that county and how they want to address their workforce infrastructure, but I will tell you, I think the decision that was going to be on private land on a speculative Mancamp was the right decision to postpone. This is a very different situation in that we have a thought leader in Prometheus that's saying, I'm going to solve this critical issue for the community and the county. Ryan, would you address the industrial siting question?
Yeah, sure. So on industrial siting, I think our position is it's not an industrial project that would be required to go through that board. We're going through this process. I would assume that had it belonged to the Industrial Siting Council and not before P&Z and the county commissioners, we would not have been able to proceed with the application and go through the process. Just want to hit on some of the potential conditions for the permit. Talked about the lease being finalizing a lease to be a condition. We're happy to entertain that. Troy's offered up the condition that we are obligated to maintain the access road, maintenance and snow removal. We're totally open to that. We're happy to entertain a condition of the permit that there will be no use for any type of detention center or anything like that at that property. And then on the impact fees, I know there were some requirements in the condition that the Prometheus project about payment and reimbursement for EMS fire, a list of recoverable fees from them if the EMS or fire had to be called out. We're happy to have those similar conditions where we would reimburse the county for certain EMS callouts, that sort of thing, similar to what was in the Prometheus approval. And then in terms of removing the assets, we'll address that in the lease. I'm sure there'll be some hefty requirements on what that will look like. That'll be negotiated. Those assets for us are very valuable. So when this project's over, Troy and his team will be seeking to move those to another project as soon as he can. But we'll work through those requirements of what will be removed. But it's in our best interest to move those as soon as possible. And we're happy to entertain timelines that we need to do that and any penalties that or obligations if we do not. So that covers that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to say anything? Commissioners, we can close the public hearing, or I believe we can close the public hearing. Let you have your discussion. I will say that for everyone's information, and as you know, this is the county's Planning and Zoning Commission. This is an investigative board, and the decision, if they choose to make it tonight, will be a recommendation only. The final decision is at the discretion of the county commission. Everybody on the board knows that, but so that you here in the audience know that as well. The final decision it will be made by the county commission. And it's a fairly, the conditional use permit document itself is fairly fluid at this moment. It's very generic. I don't know if you guys know it, but thankfully at the previous conditional use permit hearing, our attorney's office helped us with some of the wording clarification of that. I guess I'm hoping we can anticipate that again, because I think that was extremely helpful. The other thing that I will say also, for anyone who may not understand, and I appreciate what's been said about any kind of a transition to any kind of other use, detention or otherwise, this particular permit would allow what we are talking about here today, and any transition to any other use, detention or otherwise, would require similar hearings, similar documents, similar applications, similar public hearings. So that's simply not going to happen without all of those things in place. So I guess what I would say is I've got a few conditions that are clearly very generic conditions that you find typically on our conditional use permit. Earlier, Ms. Callis sent me an email, and I think she alluded it, that she would like, and I think it's very appropriate, a condition here to be all, and I'll just read this off of her email, because I think the wording is excellent. All conditions of this conditional use permit are subject to the execution and delivery of a mutually acceptable lease agreement between Uinta County, a political subdivision of the state of Wyoming, and Target Logistics Management LLC, or any subsidiary or holding corporation thereof, for the real property that is subject to this permit. And I guess what I would say is there's the condition that would allow the lease agreement to factor in all of the other concerns that were discussed or negotiated between the applicant and the county commission. The other conditions that I've just added are typical that we've seen. For instance, construction must commence within 5 years. That's a typical thing that we do on our conditional use permits. Any of these could be removed, added to, altered, amended, whatever. I think we've already addressed the industrial siding issue, but that's still on this document. Again, this is the document that will be altered before it goes to the county commission. The one thing that I did put on here, and again, you can alter it, take it off, that Uinta County, Wyoming be the receiving location for all goods, materials, tools, equipment, or supplies for said project, and any storage facility for said items shall be constructed, utilized, and maintained by applicant within the lawful boundaries of Uinta County. That would apply to any new products. If they're moving something in that they already own, that may not, but a new product, a new purchase, that would apply. And what that is just designed to do is to make sure that the sales tax dollars stay here. Dust control must be controlled. Those are typical things. It's got to be there anywhere. The permit would be renewed or reviewed annually. We do that with all of our conditional use permits across the county. And that I've also added here that copies of the water and sewer service agreement will be held on file, and that would be with the city of Evanston. Truly speaking, that is a similar issue with regard to the lease agreement that they would negotiate with the county commission. While I don't have that document with me, I'm pretty confident that they're be able to get one of those. However, if for some reason they would not be able to get it, it would have similar effect on the project as with the lease agreement. So with that, is there anything else I need to add or subtract or say? You're welcome to help me.
I think for this commission, certainly if they have any concerns, I encourage them to add them. But as with the conditional use permit for the data center conditional use, I anticipate that if this does pass this investigative public hearing, then there will be likely similar conditions from the commissioners as well.
Thank you, yes. So, your discussion now, commissioners, it's in your hands.
So what does the DEQ have? Are they involved in this process?
And maybe somebody can help me, I would assume that they would be involved to the extent of understanding or being aware of the agreement that is entered into with the applicant and the city of Evanston. That would relieve or resolve any concerns that the DEQ may or may not have. But that's going to be the big question. What is your plan for sewer? If it's the city of Evanston, the issue is resolved.
Looking at this, it almost looks like a major subdivision rather than a minor subdivision.
It does have that.
With the scope of it.
Sure, it does have that that look to it. And one could ask, why didn't we do a subdivision? And the short answer to that is, this is a temporary use. If we institute a subdivision, a zoning change, for instance, then we have to go through the process of either complying with that subdivision or that zoning designation moving forward, or going through the process of a vacation or a rezoning or something like that. Whereas this gives the county, you and the county commission, the opportunity to address the issue, to set some conditions on the use, whether you like it or not, and set the parameters by which they can operate. And then when the project is done, it is removed, and the project and the land itself stays at the base zoning, if you will, and the prior zoning and the prior use, and then the opportunities are whatever they are moving forward, and without having to go through some of the mechanics of removing what we might do if we were to consider a subdivision.
Well, the only reason I say that is because the scope of it is why I brought up DEQ, to make sure that everything that's being done is
valid point.
Not the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. Valid concern. And again, that there has been, I will tell you that there has been a couple of locations in the sewer lines close by for the city of Evanston that will need some mitigation. They're a little small. The capacity that the city has as far as wastewater and water treatment are both more than adequate. But there is some concerns that Mr. Robinson identified with the public works director with the city of Evanston, that there are a couple of locations that the pipe is a little small for a distance, and I know that the applicant knows that, and they're talking with the city right now to find ways to mitigate that concern. But ultimately, the city of Evanston will provide water and sewer service.
Maybe you can answer it, or the folks from...
I'm happy to step aside if I can.
Over the last several weeks, I have been questioned multiple times that this has happened so quickly, so suddenly. How long ago was the first conversation with appointed officials who were appointed by elected officials which represent this county? How long has this been happening?
Give or take about 5 years. Mr. Thornhock, is that accurate?
That's about right.
About 5 years.
Okay.
And I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to address that. There's only so much that we can do. I can tell you that at anything, whether it's a subdivision or a conditional use permit, everything that we do is done out in the open. Whether somebody realizes that or not, or even believes it or not, I don't know how to mitigate that concern or resolve that concern. But I can tell you that when we get an application of any kind in the county's planning office, it is advertised in the newspaper. If it's on the Bridger Valley side of the county, it is advertised in both the Uinta County Herald and the Bridger Valley Pioneer. Property owners, adjacent property owners, or property owners within close proximity of the location, of the outside boundaries of the property in question, get a letter from our office. Those always don't go through. Sometimes we get those back. We have an address incorrect or whatever. But typically, we will do our best to make sure that everybody gets a letter from us that is in close proximity. As you can imagine, we can't send letters to everybody. Postage right now is 75, 74 cents, I guess, a letter. But we do our best, and we send out letters. If that's 10 letters, we send 10. If it's 100, we send 100. And then we place a sign at a prominent location. And to be honest, I use my own judgment when putting those signs up. My best judgment is not always right, but I put the signs up where I think people will see them and be aware. So we advertise in the newspapers. We send letters out to adjacent property owners, and we post a sign as near to the location as we can. That's what we do. If there's a better way, I'd like to hear it.
Thank you.
I have concern.
Sure.
I am really concerned, Mr. Stewart and Neil, for bringing up the intersection there. And especially when the road gets closed, it's not just a traffic problem, it is total gridlock. Nothing's moving anywhere. And so that's going to add a lot more traffic to that. And concerned about that much more traffic coming in and out of the state park, really, and the people that are using the state park.
You bet. I'll defer to some on to address that issue. That was concerned.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Matthews. So for the amount of traffic that will come in and out of that shared road that we would offer to maintain, as we think about the timing of the traffic flow, right, out of that site, we anticipate that shuttling will begin in the early morning hours. I think for the purposes of the park, the state park, we did, by the way, contact the state parks division to get a better understanding of their concerns. We were unable to get a return phone call. We will continue to collaborate and engage with the state park to ensure that we have a full understanding. However, the first shuttling will begin early in the morning, and it'll be limited to the bus traffic. We will have vehicular traffic, no doubt, right? If there are locals that work at the workforce hub, they will travel to work, to and from, daily. The second tranche of shuttling will occur at the end of the day. That hopefully, and I say hopefully, as we think about the timing of that, somewhere between 5 and 7 p.m. in the evening by the time all the shuttling is done. So that would be an impact time, right? As you think about seasonality for the state park, we do understand, Ms. Tiffany's right, there's almost 500,000 visitors that travel to the state park, primarily during the seasonal months. I do think it's going to require some coordination, definitely with EMS, with the county, with the state. How do we keep the roads clear? I've seen them. It's a bottleneck. I'm not suggesting that we have answers tonight, Mr. Matthews, but I think that a study would need to be conducted to better understand what that looks like during those closure times and what are the mitigating factors. We've looked at different ingress and egress. There's some challenges from topography perspective. There's a creek bed there alongside the frontage road. And I just think that likely we would have to look at doing a traffic study to better understand how we can mitigate during these closure times. And we're open to that. We certainly want to be able to have access in and out, and we want to reduce the impact on the state park and the local residents. But as you know, I think Ms. Tiffany said, Utah doesn't close the road. And so you're well aware of it, Mr. Matthews, and I think that more work probably needs to be done on that as a condition to better understand it. I will tell you, we're more than willing to work with the county and the state and the city and doing our part to help keep roads clear and keep people safe.
Yeah. It's not so much keeping the roads clear as the interstate open. We got snow plows and all of that, but when it closes I-80, it just jams that part of town up really bad. And usually a typical year is about 5 or 6 times a year for multiple days. So I'm just really worried about how you're gonna mitigate that. And then just one entrance in and out, that's never good.
Yeah. Well, we have, around the campus itself, we have a full ring road around the campus for emergency vehicles to access any part of the campus. And certainly, we can look at, if there are ways, we can look at emergency access roads in addition to the primary ingress and egress, Mr. Matthews. So I don't know if we want to set forth as a condition, but as a follow-up to this meeting, certainly look at how we can engineer emergency access roads in addition to the primary ingress and egress.
Thank you.
Mr. Gareth, there was a question on DEQ. Mr. Cavallo, do you feel satisfied with the answer? I have my engineer here that could certainly speak to the DEQ side and all of the requirements around life safety, fire safety.
Well, that was all mine, is just to be sure that we had the proper stops in place to make sure that it works right. And that, I don't know whether the DEQ needs to involve or not, but if you do a major subdivision, they're involved. And so we just want to be sure that whatever is necessary is in place to make it work right.
In any jurisdiction that we would operate with the state environmental commission. Thank you, Chair.
I have a question also for you.
Yes, sir.
Something that I don't think you've talked about is the families that are going to come in here. The schools, have you talked to the schools about any influx with families coming in? Or are you not going to have families?
So the workforce composition, Mr. Barker, is primarily single adults, female or male. That doesn't say, not to say that there won't be families that want to move to this area permanently, but they will be looking for permanent housing, single-family homes, multifamily homes, traditional housing stock. Now, they may have a mother, for example, that decides to work on the data center, and she lives in the workforce hub for a period of 6 months or more, and she says to her family, it's time to relocate to Evanston. They wouldn't relocate to the workforce hub. That person would find housing stock in the immediate area. I don't anticipate, we've had a lot of experience with industrial projects, power generation, data center builds, and those large industrial projects are, the composition of the workforce is largely single. I would be misleading you if I told you it was families. There is a small percentage that if the project is long enough, they will permanently relocate to the area, and they will bring their families with them, but they would find alternative housing, more permanent housing.
I got a few questions.
Sure.
One, what kind of fence are you going to have around the whole place? How tall is it going to be? What's it going to look like? Two, how do you keep track of people? You got a gate going in, you got a gate coming out. How are you going to keep track of who's on campus, who's not?
Okay. Let me start with the fence. So there is a perimeter fence. Mr. Gareth, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but our standard fencing is a 6-foot chain link fence. And on some occasion, we do vision slats as well, right, from a privacy perspective. And it's a high wind area, so I'm not sure those privacy slats would probably work very well. There is controlled gated access and gated arm access with badging systems that you would find on an industrial project. The similar badging system that I'm sure Prometheus will use to gain access to their project site. We would leverage that technology for the workforce hub. So any visitor, it would have to be authorized and badged, or an authorized employee or general contractor or subcontractor would have to have an authorized cleared badge at the point of entry into the campus. And then that is tracked via a database. We have a proprietary property management system that tracks all the comings and goings of all guests and authorized personnel of the facility at all times. That's how we communicate during emergencies. If there's a unfortunate natural disaster that's occurring, that we have to muster personnel, we have ways of communicating via text message and alert media to all guests on the site via this database system that is tracked.
Okay, got another one.
Sure.
When you start to build this, how many days a week are you gonna run out there?
From a construction?
To put this in on your construction?
Yeah,
Not
well-
on the data center?
Correct. Well, we work 7 days a week
Okay,
on the construction of the workforce hub.
and how many hours a day?
We'll work 12-hour days. We don't anticipate any nighttime shift work at this point. That's very difficult to get the productivity from folks. So it's a one shift, 12-hour day. We'll start as early as the sun comes up, depending on the time of year, till the sun goes down.
And same thing with the data center, when it's up and running, be 7 days a week, just one shift, you're running out of there on the buses? They're not two shifts?
I don't want to speak for the project owner, but in early discussions with the general contractor, right now it's proposed as a one shift, but again, I don't want to overspeak for Prometheus. On that, early discussions right now, the plan is
Just
one
trying to figure
shift.
out the traffic with the buses, how many times they're gonna be running, and
Right now, the plan.
One
for-
shift.
The plan right now is one shift. We'll have buses running in the early morning, very early morning, mostly before people are awake in the community, and then at the end of the day.
and that'll be 58 buses?
We estimate about 50 to 58 buses. There are 55 passenger coach buses outfitted for industrial projects, all the safety requirements, the YDOT requirements,
And they will be parked at your facility when they're not in use,
That's
right?
correct. We'll have parking stalls, we have a transportation plan for the workforce hub, including the movement of the buses, not just parking areas, but where we actually aggregate personnel and load them onto the buses as well.
Will you be doing any maintenance on them, on your property?
We will
Or
not
will
be.
that be farmed out?
We will not be doing maintenance. We will not have a quote-unquote bus barn to perform maintenance on the workforce hub. No, sir. We self-perform all of the maintenance of the workforce hub with our personnel, all of the HVAC, the maintaining of the modular assets, the grounds, vector control, snow removal, all aspects of facilities maintenance.
Okay. That's about all I got right now. You guys got anything else? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's up to you. It's your pleasure.
Yeah,
motion.
Huh?
We got a lot to unpack. With stipulations.
I think I got most of them written down.
Do you? Okay.
Fortunately, there's a couple of umbrellas that cover several, so.
Okay.
When you give me that look, I know.
Golden tonguelets.
I move that we approve CUP 26-02 with the conditions that are stipulated and that Kent has read. Construction, 5 years, applicant must meet all Wyoming state requirements, including Industrial Siting Council. Uinta County is the receiving location. Dust control must be mitigated. Permit reviewed annually. And this is an important one. Copies of the water and sewer service agreements with the City of Evanston will be provided and held on file. The applicant also will be asked to meet with the Trail System Group. I apologize, I didn't write the name of that group down, but the Trail System Group, and that they will be part of the negotiations. That the applicant will also include road clearing and maintenance for the access road. and that they will undertake, as soon as is provident, a traffic study on the interchange. So they're not taken off guard either. And finally, that this is subject to a successful lease contract negotiation with Uinta County. I think I've covered everything.
Should they put in there that they need to look for a second entrance, exit, egress?
Sure. So we'll add also that as part of that traffic study that they will discover a secondary ingress and egress for emergency needs.
Do you want to, is your recommendation that that be a requirement, or that they pursue it, pursue all possibilities in that direction?
The second.
That they pursue all possibilities?
Yes.
Okay, everybody in? Okay.
Did that work? Like we got everything in.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Conditional use permit 2602 is approved to move on to the county commissioners for their approval for their final study.
Thank
Do
you.
we have any other business?
That is all of our agenda tonight, sir.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks.